G'day, Neil here from Player One Sim Gear, and today we're checking out the dual H pattern and sequential shifter from VNM. Let's take a look. Alright, so let's talk shifters. When I first got into sim racing, I started out, like many, using a relatively simple wheel with paddle shifters. And as I progressed through my journey in sim racing and I began to upgrade it to different styles of gear and try different platforms, I continued to use paddle shifters on my wheel because it was simple, my wheels all had them, it made sense. I guess muscle memory kicked in and I didn't really need to think about the conscious act of changing gears other than just reaching forward and clicking through them. When I discovered GT racing and iRacing in particular, and then moved on and discovered my true love at the moment, which is V8 racing, a key component, if you're familiar with V8 supercars, is that concept of the drivers having to take one hand off the wheel to manually grab a shifter and change down through the gears. What surprised me the most was just how much immersion factor this little piece of kit could add into my sim racing experience. And the key component to it is this. It is the robust mechanical feel of the device and how that translates to the experience of driving a race car, and particularly a car as rugged and aggressive as the V8 supercar. What this does, more so than any other piece of kit on my rig, is it adds a tactile feel into the experience of controlling the simulator. And what it gives you is a level of connectedness into the virtual race car that you're driving that you just can't get from any other piece of kit. What I mean by that is that this piece of kit gives you a way to feel like you are providing a mechanical input back into the simulator, back into your virtual race car, in a way that nothing else does. Obviously the wheel and pedals provide you an input, but it's a smoother, more granulated feel. This has a mechanical bite to it that makes you really feel like you're contributing to how your vehicle is being driven and how it's going down the road. And it's kind of a weird thing to say, I guess, but when you try it, you'll know what I mean. It's almost impossible to take the smile off your face the first time you get in and start running laps in a powerful racing car in the simulator using something like this. So let's take a look at the shifter itself. The overall impression, first and foremost, is how well built the VNM shifter is. It is a really solid piece of kit. It's made entirely of machined metal. It is robust, it's got a weighty feel to it, and it gives you a real sense of a quality piece of kit. Now, one thing I will say about this is it's not designed to be a quick change device. It's really intended that you choose either between H pattern or sequential, and you sort of have it set in that mode. Now, it's not hard to do. Changing takes about 5 minutes, and you can certainly change between the two modes when it's on the rig. You don't need to disconnect the shifter from your rig itself. The way you change is simply by changing this top plate. So the mechanism for the H pattern or sequential modes is already built into the machinery of the shifter itself, and you change it by essentially changing the input mechanism or control on the top, which is made up of this faceplate. So you can see here's one of the H pattern faceplate styles. There's a couple you can choose from depending on how many gears you want and how you want it to be structured. They're sold separately, the additional ones. And then of course there's a second gear knob as well, which works really well. It's really comfortable, again, very well machined. This is more designed for the H pattern style. So in order to swap it out, first thing you do is unscrew the shifter handle and take this off. You then obviously remove these 4 bolts from across here. And then you loosen off this bolt here, which is used to allow you to disconnect the faceplate from the shaft. And it simply slides up. There's some resistance already because of the mechanical screws that are providing some force against the shaft. Simply give it a tug off the top. And you can see there's some mechanisms built in here for that metallic and I guess the resistance in terms of how much you feel when you're changing the gears on the sequential. And that can all be adjusted here and here to give you that feel that feels right for you. And then if we look down into the workings of the device itself, you can see full metal construction, really clearly can see how it operates. And again, the number of points in here are adjustable to make sure you get just the right feel for yourself as well. And the key thing that stands out to me on this is just the quality of the construction. Everything's very well put together. It's nice and clean. As you can see, it's clearly, like I said, all metal. This thing's going to last you a really long time. And then to put it into H pattern mode, it's as simple as putting on there to the top, fastening it down with 4 points, and then attaching the H pattern gear knob. All up, it takes about 5 minutes to do. I mean, that's the few times I've done it. It'd probably take you less the more you practice it. I don't think it's necessarily something you would be doing like in a session. You wouldn't change it around 2 or 3 times. You might set your rig up as H pattern for a while potentially, and then change it back to sequential. You certainly could do it in a session, but you have to get the Allen keys out, so it's not like you're just flicking a switch that way. But overall, it's a really easy process to change. It's certainly not hard, and critically, you don't need to take the shifter itself off of your rig to make that change. You just need to have access for the Allen keys to change the top and then be able to unscrew the knob. So in terms of how you mount it to your rig, there's kind of 2 options that are included as standard, with a third that you can purchase separately. So the first 2 are just through the mounting bolts at the back. So there's 9 bolts at the back which allow you to mount the rig. You can slightly offset the bolts up or down or right or left so you get it in the right position, or you can mount directly onto your rig through the 4 bolts at the bottom. We used a custom bracket on our rig to mount it from the back using the 9 bolts. Now, there's also a set of brackets or clamps that you can purchase separately designed for the kit that work really well as an alternate mounting method. If we take a look now at the software that comes with the VNM package, so first of all, it comes plug and play ready to go. You don't need to do any configuration or setup, which is great. You can literally hook it up and you're good to go. If you do want to tweak some of the settings though, you do have the option here in the sequential mode to configure how sensitive the gear changes are and when they kick in, which is great. And there's a really cool LED on the front that you can set up to match the color scheme of your rig in terms of how you want it to look, and obviously the patterns that you want the LEDs to cycle through, which is just a nice touch. Overall though, the software, look, it's relatively basic, but it looks fine and it's certainly absolutely functional. Ultimately, for something like a shifter, you don't really need to use the software. You can just plug it in and you're good to go. Okay, so final thoughts. Do you need a shifter in your life? The answer is absolutely yes. This thing has taken me completely by surprise in terms of how much immersion it added to my sim experience and how much it enhanced the overall feeling of driving these powerful race cars. If you have any more questions, please do reach out to us directly on Player One Sim Gear. That's p1simgear.com.au. You can hit us up on Facebook as well, or of course, please comment. We'd love it if you'd like and subscribe on the video as well. We've got more videos coming shortly, so please hit the notification icon to be notified about those, and we look forward to seeing you out on track. Thanks a lot.